أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. So welcome to the first in a series of talks or lectures that we are going to be, within which we are going to be discussing the book of Muhammad al-Arabi al-Qarawi. This is a very well-known book in the Arab world, and it is called Khulasah al-Fiqhiyah ala madhhab al-Sadat al-Malikiyah. The fiqh summary of the fiqh summary based on the madhhab of the Maliki masters, or which we can say a concise book of Maliki fiqh. Now this book is a very important book because it is very useful and very accessible for the student of knowledge. It has ease of expression, it has simplicity, and it has a question and answer style which makes it very, very accessible for those who have been educated in a Western system. Because they can go to any particular issue about which they have questions or about which they want to increase in knowledge and go straight to that issue without having to wade through a number of other issues which might distract them in the meantime. So you have one particular question, what do I do in this particular set of circumstances? You just go to that question that asks about those set of circumstances and you get your answer straight away. So it is a very useful book. And for that reason, it is used throughout the Maliki North Africa by all the students of knowledge who want to have a way of helping themselves understand the books that they are studying. So you will find that the majority of students in the Qarawiyin, for example, will have this book, Khulasah al-Fiqhiyah, and when they have an issue that they haven't quite understood from the text they are studying, they will access this book, look into the matter where it is very easy to understand, and then it makes them able to understand much more easily the particular section about which they are having difficulty. So it is a very useful book and one which has received wide acclaim throughout the Muslim world. The Khulasah comprises the areas most important to every Muslim, the areas that he needs to know in order to protect the fundamental aspects of his deen. In other words, the ibadat, the pillars upon which this great house of Islam is built. The prayer, zakat, fasting, hajj, and all of the other ibadat that are connected to those four pillars. Prayer is truly the heart of this deen. It is the central support around which all of the rest of the deen is built. The rest of the deen is not accepted until the prayer is accepted. As is said in the Muwatta, أول ما ينظر فيه من عمل الإنسان الصلاة. The first action of any person that is looked at is the prayer. And if it is not accepted, then none of the rest of his affair is accepted. This is a very important thing for us to understand. The prayer is the heart of this great deen. So you will find that the prayer is given central place in all the books of fiqh. But in order for us to pray correctly, certain conditions must be met. The most important thing that must be in place for the prayer to be acceptable is purity. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La tuqbalu salatu man ahdatha hatta yatawadda." The prayer of the one who has lost his purity is not accepted until he does wudu. Purity truly is the starting point for the Muslim. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "At-tahur shatr ad-din," or shatr al-Islam. Tahur, purity, is a half of the deen. It is a half of what makes a man Muslim. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the Masjid al-Dirar, the mosque that was established in Medina, that was established purely to create fitna amongst the Muslims, he talked about the mosque of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "La masjidun ussisa ala taqwa min awwal yawmin ahaqqu an taquma fih." A mosque that has been established on the basis of taqwa from its first day has more right for people to pray in it. لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى مِنْ أَوَّلِ يَوْمٍ أَحَقُّ أَنْ تَقُومَ فِيهِ فِيهِ رِجَالٌ يُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَتَطَهَّرُوا وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. In that mosque, you will find people who love to make themselves pure. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are made pure. This is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has drawn a direct parallel between taqwa and purity. Being in a state of purity and having a fear and an awareness of your Lord. They are closely linked. And even in the English language, we have that famous saying that cleanliness is next to godliness. Being clean, being pure, is very much akin to being godly. So this is the reason why every book of fiqh, without exception, starts with a section that talks about tahara. There's in a well-known hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ طَيِّبٌ يُحِبُّ الطِّيبَ وَنَظِيفٌ يُحِبُّ النَّظَافَةَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good and only accepts what is good, and is clean and only accepts cleanliness, only accepts what is clean. So we want to, and also it is part of the fitrah of the human being to be attracted to what is pure and clean, and to have a disgust or a disdain or a distaste for anything that is impure and unclean. It is within our nature. You see a child, even people who have not been educated in the normal way, and put impurity and purity in front of them, and they will choose what is pure. This is the natural form of the human being. Purification is of two types. Because in order to get to a state of purity, we must first purify ourselves. So purification is of two types. That which removes physical impurity, and that is called taharatul khabath, and that which removes non-physical impurity, which is called taharatul hadath. Taharatul khabath and taharatul hadath. Both these things must be there, must be in place before a person can do the prayer. He cannot have physical impurity on his body or his clothes or the place upon which he is praying, and he cannot have ritual impurity on his body. So both these things must be in place. He must be physically pure and ritually pure before he can embark upon the salah. So how do we know if we're physically pure? We must first be able to distinguish what is pure from what is impure. And the author here, Sidi Muhammad al-Arabi al-Qarawi, therefore starts his book with a chapter entitled The Pure and the Impure. The pure, he lists 30 things, or 30 categories of things which are pure, and then 15 categories of things which are impure. We are not going to go through all of these step by step. Rather, based upon the soul of this book, which is one of summary, of summarization, of Khulasah, we are going to summarize the pure and the impure in a much shorter format, bi'idhnillah. And in order to do this, we have to start by looking at the creation around us. All things in creation can be divided into two categories: creatures, or living animals, and inanimate objects. And by inanimate objects, we don't just mean rocks and earth and things like that. We include all sorts of plant life. Even though they grow, we are counting them among what is considered to be inanimate. So let us start with creatures. But the basic ruling is that all impure things stem from the processes that happen within creatures. So we will start with creatures. Animals or creatures can be subdivided into two categories: those that are living and those that have died. Those that are living and those that have died. We will start with those that are living. Every living creature is pure. Every living creature is pure without exception. Even pigs and dogs. Every living thing is pure without exception. While the purity of what is dead depends upon the category of that animal and the lawfulness of its meat, which we will go into in due course. Living things also excrete and secrete various things from their bodies. These excretions are either waste products that have passed through the digestive tracts of the body, or they are things that are more intrinsic to the human being that come out of it, things that are not related to anything that has been put into them, but comes out of the body as a natural process. The things which are intrinsic to the body are of two types. That which is habitually secreted. That which is habitually secreted, such as tears, sweat, mucus, snot, saliva, and a number of other things that come out through the skin or through the nose or through the mouth or through the eyes. These are all pure. These are all pure without exception. And there are a couple of other things that are included in these categories, which are digestive juices, in other words the stomach acids, bile, and the liquid of the brain. All of these things are considered to be pure. The liquids and solids that come out of the body which are considered to be impure are those that come out as a result of a wound or a sore or a pimple or something of that nature. In other words, blood that flows from the body, or pus, or the thin white liquid that you might get from any sore. All of those are impure. So they do not come out of the body habitually, they are more rare in the way that they come out. As for what has passed through the digestive tracts of the body and has emerged from either the front or the back, or even back up through the mouth, and has undergone that process of digestion, this is what is typically considered to be impure, depending upon the type of the animal. Because even this depends upon the type of the animal. And so in order to understand when waste products such as this are impure, we have to be able to categorize animals into different categories. So the scholars have done that. They have a category of animal that it is lawful to eat, and a category of animal which it is unlawful to eat. Any animal which is unlawful to eat, whether that be because of something to do with the animal or because of the way that it has been killed, every part of its waste product is impure. Every part of its waste product is impure. This applies while it is alive and after it has died. But animals which are lawful to eat, and I have to again say the lawful can be subdivided into a number of categories. Firstly, permissible animals. In other words, animals which there is no dislike in eating under any circumstances when they have been lawfully slaughtered, such as cows, camels, goats, sheep, etc. These animals, their waste products are pure while they are alive and pure after they have been lawfully slaughtered. Then you have animals which are disliked. They are not forbidden, but their meat is disliked, such as lions and tigers and other sort of carnivorous beasts. Those animals, their waste products are impure. Their waste products are impure while they are alive and impure after they have died. Then you have animals which are of the sea, or aquatic animals, and their waste products are perfectly pure, and they have no impurity attached to them in any way. And finally, you have animals such as insects and other creatures of that nature. And generally speaking, what comes out of these animals of waste products is pure and has no impurity attached to it. The one exception to this are those types of insects which drink the blood of others, such as fleas and creatures of that nature. Now, when you squash such a creature, often a lot of blood emerges from it. That blood is impure, although whatever comes from within that creature of its own workings and its own flesh and blood, when it is squashed, is pure. As for animals which are unlawful to eat, and those that I mentioned as being disliked to eat, everything of their waste matter is impure. Everything of their waste matter is impure. Their urine, their feces, their vomit when that vomit has changed from the substance of the food that was eaten. And this includes human beings. Human beings are in this category of unlawful. So every part of the waste matter of the human being, whether it's vomit or whether it is urine or whether it is feces, is impure. As for inanimate objects, and by that I mean plants and rocks and stones, dirt, mud, all of these types of things, what you find in the bottom of swamps and so on and so forth. Even though it may be smelly and dirty and horrible to look at, even may feel disgusting next to the skin, none of those things are impure. None of those things are impure. There is only one exception to impurity when it comes to inanimate objects, and that is alcohol. That will be left to another discussion. But the only thing when it comes to plant life or inanimate objects that is impure is alcohol. Inanimate objects are intrinsically pure, but they can be rendered impure when they come into contact with things that are intrinsically impure, especially when they are liquid. If a liquid comes into contact with an impurity that has the capacity to transmit out of itself, such as a liquid impurity, urine for example, then that can render that whole thing which is inanimate impure. It becomes mutanajjis. This can happen even with water. If water has any of its three qualities changed by something impure, and by the three qualities I mean its taste, or its smell, or its colour, if any of those three qualities are changed when it comes into contact with something impure, then that water itself becomes impure. And this happens with milk, with flour, anything that comes into contact with something impure and it is changed, and it is visibly changed. So we now know that although inanimate objects are intrinsically pure, they can be rendered impure. But can they be purified? Is there a way of purifying them? This is where we come on to water. Water has an amazing quality that it can remove impurity. It is, in many ways, although we do have various other ways of cleaning ourselves after the toilet, generally speaking, water is the one thing that removes impurity. Now, water removes impurity when it removes the traces of that impurity, whether it's the smell or the physical substance, and when that water itself has the ability to make something pure. In other words, the water itself is not impure. As for things which are intrinsically impure, they are impure in themselves and have not been made impure by something else, they can only be made pure by fire. In other words, by being burnt up completely, so that nothing is left of them apart from ash and smoke. That ash and smoke becomes purified. The substance, if any part of the original substance remains after that burning process, it is still impure. So impurity is only removed by being consumed by fire. So we've talked about water. This is the final important thing we have to understand when it comes to purity and impurity. I mentioned water can be changed by impurity and thus become impure in itself. But for water to be used to purify ourselves ritually, it must be what's called mutlaq. It must be what's called mutlaq. And that means pure and purifying. Pure and purifying. Water can be pure. In other words, it has no impurity attached to it. If it comes on your clothes, you can pray with it and so on and so forth. But it may not have the capacity to remove impurity. The only way that it has the capacity to remove impurity, and here we are specifically talking about ritual impurity. In other words, to do wudu or to do ghusl. Water can only remove impurity when it is not mixed with anything else to such an extent that its qualities have changed, those of colour, taste or smell. So if water is mixed with honey, and you taste the water, and you taste it as sweet, then that water, you can drink it, it can be put on your clothing, it can be put on your prayer rug, and it's not going to have any negative effect. But you cannot do wudu with that water. In order for you to do wudu with water, it must be pure and purifying. In other words, unchanged in its original form. And there are a number of things that we consider to be water in its original form, even though they may not taste the same, all of them. Seawater is salty, but it is considered to be in its original form. Water that has flowed over iron deposits and has a reddy colour and a metallic taste is pure and purifying. The water of swamps, even though it may be turgid and may be green, is pure and purifying. Water that has algae, like the pond water that has been left for a long time and has algae growing on it, and the water has a horrible smell coming off it, it is still pure and purifying. Rainwater, pure and purifying. Spring water, pure and purifying. Water that has had leaves from trees adjoining it fall into it and maybe affect it somewhat, still pure and purifying. All of these things are water which is pure and purifying, and they may be used for wudu. This was a summary of the first couple of chapters of the book. The first one which dealt with the pure and the impure, and najis wa tahir, and the second one which dealt with the basic form of purification, especially with respect to the qualities of water. So this is the end of the first video. The second video, inshallah, will deal with the obligations and sunan and recommended elements of wudu.